So yeah, a very good evening to all of you, respected speaker, and my dear participants. I am Paras Chug, a member and the HR manager of Legal Vidya. I welcome you all on our highly anticipated webinar on AI in India: Opportunities and its Opposition. This session will cover key aspects of AI in India, exploring its opportunities and challenges associated with the implementation. Participants will gain valuable insights into regulatory frameworks, ethical considerations, and best practices for harnessing AI's potential while addressing societal concerns. This webinar is an excellent opportunity for technology enthusiasts, legal practitioners, policymakers, and anyone interested in the evolving landscape of AI in India. You can join us. We will delve into the intricacies of the AI in India, exploring both the opportunities it presents and the challenges it poses. This webinar will provide invaluable insights into how AI is shaping industries and the legal frameworks that surrounding its development. Whether you are a technology enthusiast, a policymaker, or legal professional, this session will promises to equip you with the knowledge to navigate the evolving landscape of AI in India. So before we dive into this webinar, I would like to introduce Legal Vidya to you all. Legal Vidya is founded in year of 2021. Legal Vidya is dedicated to empowering young lawyers. Our platform offers a comprehensive portal for enhancing legal knowledge and expertise. We provide internship programs, opportunities to publish articles, research papers, and host interactive webinars and sessions and courses for our members. Now, I would like to introduce the today's speaker for the session, Advocate Aman Singh Sir, the managing partner at DSA Legal. Advocate Aman Singh Sir is a managing partner at a DSA Legal. Mr. Aman Sir is a legal professional with a robust, yes, sir, with a robust of 9-year background in trademark prosecution, enforcement and expertise in negotiable instruments. Mr. Aman Sir is proficient in overseeing trademark portfolios, conducting comprehensive legal research, and offering strategic counsel to clients on intellectual property issues and negotiable instruments. He has appeared in district courts and various state and district consumer tribunals, as well as in trademark prosecution hearings before the trademark registry. Mr. Aman Singh Sir has represented next check clients, including fashion designers and prominent clients such as Benjuk and Mahika and various startups, providing them with expert trademark registration advisories. Now, I kindly request all participants to keep their microphones muted and their videos turned off during the session. If you have any questions, please save them for the end when the speaker invites you to ask. So, without further ado, let us warmly welcome Advocate Aman Singh Sir to the virtual stage. We eagerly await the invaluable wisdom and perspectives he is about to share with us, sir. Welcome, sir.
Thank you, Paras, for such a glowing introduction. So, just to kind of give you an background of what we are going to explain today and how it kind of gives a nuanced approach to what we are, I'll just kindly explain the background so that at least there's a clarity of thought as to how and what we are going to discuss today. Okay. No, so now, as a budding lawyer, when I started, AI was always a kind of a very out of the world concept. Like, imagine you walking a room and a light switches on. Like, that was an unheard kind of a thing. Now, as a lawyer, your or as even a budding technology enthusiast or even a technocrat, your approach towards AI should always be as a novel concept or as something that you take it for granted. Like for us millennials, it was always unheard of a thing, to kind of get everything at a mobile phone, which everyone, I'm assuming, has, or perhaps even, ordering even a prescribed medicine, which in itself in India is a kind of a very novel thing, considering, in still in rural villages, you now have started getting even a 3G connection, or perhaps even something like, like AI prescribing that, for say a diabetes medicine, your prescriptions are due. So that's something unheard of a thing. Now, fast forward 5, 10 years, now we have something like technology is so accessible. A byproduct of that is having an artificial intelligence. Imagine having a virtual friend. I'm sure everyone has heard of, say, Instagram, Facebook. You have something like Reels. Imagine you can put up filters. Now, that filter itself is something of a technological advantage, or perhaps for a lawyer like me, which tries to find compliances or issues, it can even be a technological intrusion in your personal life, because end of the day, unless you grant it access, it's your legally enshrined right that you have to grant access to someone to kind of give it you a result. Now, like anything, AI is something which has to be dependent on the input that you're giving in. Now, imagine you, like as I said, it's a friend because you are granting it access in your life, not with respect to, say, a particular sector or particular area of your life. You are granting it access to your personal life, social, professional, as well as personal. It knows everything about you. Conversely, it can help you with a lot of things, your meds, your medicines, even your whom you should befriend based on your personal preferences and choices, the clothes that you wear. Imagine you walking a store and you have 10 different plethora of options, 10 different plethora of variations available to you. You have various filters available to you wherein you can choose, okay, my mood is this right now. I'm going to meet a particular friend or a particular function. This cloth fits my shoes. This clothes fit my vibe that I want to give for today. Or perhaps even, I'm meeting a friend who's particularly enthusiastic about a particular anime character or a manga character or even a particular area of life that you wish to give out. So AI can help you with that. Now, coming to the relevancy of the topic, it is something that we all are aware of. We all are part of it. Courtesy our professional life, our personal life, or even a social life. Everyone uses filters, or I'm assuming Snapchat or even Instagram for that matter. You have filters there. Everyone wants to post videos, look good. AI can help you with that. You have various technologies which can help you with that. Now, imagine you walking into a store with your elderly person. You don't have to walk into a store saying that this thing is good, this thing is bad. You just take out your phone, the phone scans up the surface of the vegetables. This thing is good, that thing is bad, your time is saved. In our times, without the AI, it was always very manual, very physical. There was always this thing. Now, for people out there among my audience who wish to save time, who have a very busy life, be it with respect to writing articles, writing research article, AI can even help you with that. Now, my question to you is, how far are you sure that AI is not taking something away from you? How far are you sure that it is ethically sound for you to share your personal data, your personal preferences with something as impartial or as unethical as AI, if I can take the liberty to say so? Because imagine walking into a store and you have 10 different data screens thrown at you. How would you decide which screen is relevant or not, or which gate is relevant or not? You have no options, you have no lifelines. How would you go about it? Do you make a call based on your instinct? Do you make a call based on a lifeline of a friend? Or do you make a instinctual call ki I'll see how that based on the end outcome? My question to you is, in this today's world where we have so much of a excess of technology, be it with respect to 4G, 5G, blockchain, augmented reality, virtual reality, machine learning, natural learning process, where do you decide what the threshold point is? Do you actually go ahead and say that, okay, uh, this is where I draw a call? This is where I say that, okay, this is what I want to do, and this is what I wish to be. But where do you actually get to make that call? You don't actually. That's the whole point. Because as a lawyer, when you have a statutory legal law frame or a regulatory law frame, you know that, okay, exactly as Prakhar was saying, that AI is very invasive. That's the inherent nature of it. The inherent nature of AI is that it's based on a large language model. The generative AI is that, as the name suggests, it generates. It's not very autonomous, it cannot create on its own. You have to grant it data, you have to grant it access. Unless you grant it access, it won't allow you to give the uh, how would I say, input, unless you give it some kind of a output. The output is inherent on you sharing your personal data, sharing some sort of a data with them. So unless you share that, it won't allow you to utilize the data in any capacity or in any form. Like as someone says, it's a deepfake. Now, recently elections happened in India, correct? Now, how would you know that the data being shared or the information that is being shared with you, irrespective of elections or be irrespective of a holiday being declared, is true or untrue? You don't. That is why someone says it's very invasive. Exactly. Now, in a recent time, you had someone like Mr. Anil Kapoor getting an injunction from Delhi High Court. Now, so it's very invasive across all sectors and platforms. You cannot make a call that, okay, AI is, AI doesn't concern me. AI is invasive, but only to a limited extent of capacity. My personal information is not being shared. The minute you allow it access, exactly. But then again, the shadow of what we think, we have to kind of grant it access to our personal life, correct? We have that access courtesy the regulatory framework that we have to kind of regulate and supervise what we are sharing of it. I'm sure 90% of you, or 100% of you have phones, which you may not so be aware that you have something called an end user license agreement while you sign up an app, be it irrespective of whether you share an Android phone or perhaps even an iPhone or even OnePlus phones. Every phone has that inherent thing of getting your personal data. Now, for you, it's just a number. For them, it's a way of marketing. There's always that commercial intent involved. Now, as soon as the commercial intent is involved, you become valuable to that said entity or even for that said AI, because most AIs in India, be it with respect to Chat GPT or anything, is based on the form large language model. It's based on the data that you have shared. Now, I'll give you a very good example of it. Uh, as long as okay, before I proceed further, whatever I'm sharing, we will be sharing the research material with you with the proper footnotes, so please don't worry about that. I will be sharing everything so you can make your own call, okay? So in case the screen is not available, I'm not sharing the screen or because that is leading to voice lagging. So that's the reason we are not sharing, as someone had earlier suggested, please share screen. So rest assured, I will be sharing all the research material with you. So now what I wish to say is that uh, as people may not be aware, there's an agency called Meti. That's MEITY. That's Ministry of Information Technology. Okay. Now that's one of the leading agencies which is looking into things like, correct, Ministry of Information and Technology. It has issues, various advisory. It even has a committee for inculcating generative AI for usage by government. We even have a technology research group. The purpose of that is to kind of inculcate and incorporate AI as a responsible partner into our day-to-day life. You have a research group whose sole job is to look into how AI can be incorporated and be it as a responsible AI. Now, sometime back, Niti Aayog also had issued a particular paper sharing the principles for a responsible AI. My question to you is, as a law student, do you think AI is inherently incapable of acting responsibly, considering it does not conform to the human ethos? It would not care that, I, as a person, shared something with someone which may not be relevant at this time, but may be relevant at other time. Considering AI is just a machine or a tool, do you think there is a need to give it a very kind of a transpolatory technique to see how it goes, or do you think it should be based on an end user result? Because could be that you said something, uh see, I'll answer both the questions. Data input would not consider in the fact that whether you are a lawyer or a doctor or anything. It's your personal data. Data does not have a characteristics of a predefined role. Correct. As a person, say you are traveling, you are a lawyer, you did some research which led to certain positive or negative outcome. Do you think the machine had actually asked you as a role that that whether you're utilizing it at the end usage as a lawyer or as a doctor or as just a personal concerned citizen? So it's a data which holds value, and it's how you kind of perceive it as to kind of see it in a very negative connotation, that it may not understand your human emotions. It may say, okay, my predefined guidelines don't allow me to share a certain technology which can save a certain human life unless certain declarations are given to me. On the other end, you may say, okay, I shared something with the very clear understanding that it may have certain slanderous material to it, but I'm protected by law. Therefore, the AI is regulated and stopped not to share that data. Where do you draw the threshold line? Where do you get to decide that this is good and this is bad? That is wherein the input comes into play. What goes in is what comes out. But who gets to decide as to what is correct and what is wrong? That is where the generative AI or the need for the regulatory compliance comes into play. Now, as I was saying, that the very imperative of the word, that as someone said, that is there a dire need for strategic regulatory enforcement of AI? Of course, it is. Like, uh, I know 99 people have, in some capacity or form, have used Chat GPT to either save time or, to kind of get an understanding of what the case laws are, whether there is a judgment favorable to them, whether there is something, to save time, or whether there's a potential exclusion of certain issues which can, kind of ease their research work, be it with respect to, focusing on a particular sector, like preparing for moods, or perhaps, preparing for a certain issue, which, just to kind of get an edge, that maybe their research key strings are not correct, maybe the Google is not operating properly, the data ecosystem that they're using is not correct to the aspect that they want it to be, they're not getting the particular research that they're wanting. Imagine the impact that, there's no secure promise of personal security, there is no assigning accountability, and there's a plethora of security risk. Would you still take the risk of, inputting your personal data across a large world of internet? It's like saying that I am this is my problem, this is what I do, and I'm sharing it willingly with you. Are you making a informed choice? Of course not. But the counter to that is that you're getting a data you're wanting and saving time. So it's like a counter trade-off. I'm sharing my personal data, but I'm saving my effort into getting what I want by sharing my personal data. My personal data may not be relevant to me, but it may be relevant to you. That is wherein the need for a responsible AI comes into play. Is there a way of kind of mapping it across a particular guideline? AI is so invasive and so exclusive that you cannot put in a predefined guidelines or rules that saying that this would be applicable and this would not be applicable. So that's my question to you as a law student. Uh, this is a very good way of kind of approaching it. That that is wherein the difference happens, and that is wherein the admission or the skill of an individual comes into play. Like I, as a responsible lawyer, I'm very kind of paranoid of using AI to get what I want. Not because I don't wish to kind of reduce my work, but rather the very fear that what I share can be misused against me in any form of capacity. When I'm actually allowing a research, I'm actually sharing my metadata with them. So where do you draw a line? I'm sure that most people here or the people are not aware of what LLMs are, except for of course the masters that we do. It's a large language model. Chat GPT as the best and the most glaring example is correct. Now the other thing is large language model. Now one of the key aspects of large language model is that it is dependent on the data that you give. It cannot operate on its own. It doesn't have a human mind. It lacks empathy. It lacks the understanding that okay, this is a personal data, this is inherently wrong for me to utilize it. On the other hand, the purist might argue that it doesn't have a human ulterior intentions. What is the worst that it can do? It can share your data across telecallers. It can share your data in research and application of AI. What's the worst it can do? Because it lacks that human emotion, therefore it lacks that human ulterior intent. So that's a kind of a personal trade-off that you do willingly and voluntarily, thereby kind of coming across within the regulatory framework. Now imagine that Meti is a apex ministry division. It actually had to issue an advisory because it felt the need that okay, I I am a department comprising of human individuals. I cannot stop people from using AI in their personal life. How do I kind of control that sensitive data that may be shared with them in a parameters of a regulatory framework? Therefore, I issue a white paper or a guideline to ensure and bind them that you are hereby legally prohibited to share certain data because of what we have said. Leave alone the guidelines. We reserve ourselves certain legal parameters. Correct. Now, as Shivam has rightly pointed out, that there's an end user thing. Now, I'm sure that most people use Android phone. I'm sure you must not have read the when you install any app or Candy Crush. There's EUL. That's end user license agreement. You are basically granting them permission to utilize anything on your phone, literally anything. Once the data is shared, AI also has a moderator and an administrator. It's not the AI which is utilizing the data. AI is just sharing the data or acting as an intermediary. Exactly. Now, it is made technical for a reason. How do you choose what is technical and not? Either you go through it, apply your head, and go through it and make an informed call that, okay, I am utilizing this app. I know what it is. I know certain data is shared. Therefore, I restrict it to certain data. Now, people share a lot of things across AI purely for the sake of convenience. We don't get to, kind of discern what data is being shared. As long as it's on your phone, you have granted it access to your data. Anything is data and anything can be shared as per the language of the machine. Where do you draw a call? You may be having a personal call, you may be sharing something very intrusive or personal. You don't get to choose after that, okay, this data is personal, this should not be shared. You may contact a person saying that don't share it, you are an individual, you are bound by legal regulatory frameworks. How do you bind the AI? How do you bind the entity which doesn't exist except as a AI? Uh, you can comment either on chat box or it does not. It does not. And even if it does, it comes under a very limited capacity. That's what my point is, that AI cannot be defined or regulated within a said framework. Correct. Now, as I'm saying that AI can be defined as generative AI or as as other things of AI. Since you're focusing purely on AI, because that is user interface based, it's generative. You are generating the data. It is generating the data for you as a user. And it's also developing accordingly based on the data that is getting. Imagine there is a group of 10 people, 5 may be good, 5 may be bad. It's accordingly learning. How do you regulate something which doesn't have a physical shape or form? Even the Citizenship Act says that a citizen is only someone who may achieve a certain number of age, who may have a Indian passport, who may have a personal information. Personal itself has the word personal enshrined in it. AI does not have a enshrined in it. The very word is artificial intelligence. It's no longer human. Therefore, how do you kind of connect personal information to an AI? What, like you as a law student, how do you construe AI? Do you think it's a person? सर होता क्या है कि आप पर्सन हो, ठीक है, आपने डेटा शेयर करा, इंसान को आप बोलते हो इंसान है, इंसानियत के नाम पे आप कुछ मत करो। मशीन को आप कैसे बोलोगे कि वो नहीं करे? आप उसके पास खोजोगे, आप उसको कैसे? डेटा तो सर्वर पे सेव हो रहा है, आप उसको लोकेट कहाँ करोगे? आप एक सर्वर डाउन करोगे, 5 अलग सर्वर पे एग्जिस्ट कर रहा है कॉन्करेंटली, आप उसको रोकोगे कैसे? यहाँ पर रेगुलेशन की बात आती है कि आप एआई जो है, लॉ जो है, वो एक पर्टिकुलर एस्पेक्ट पे काम करता है, एक तरीके से काम करता है। बट एआई जो है, एआई के जो डेवलपर्स हैं, ओके प्रखर, आई विल गेट बैक टू दैट, जस्ट गिव मी अ मिनट, आई आंसर, आई फिनिश दिस एंड आई विल कम टू दैट एज वेल। तो जो एआई होता है, वो मशीन बेस्ड होता है, सर्वर बेस्ड होता है, बट सर्वर किस चीज पे चल रहा है? इंटरनेट पर। इंटरनेट को आप एक जुरिडिक्शन पे आप कैसे मार्क करोगे? हो सकता है आप उसमें इंडिया में कर रहे हो, बट उसका डेवलपर यूके में बैठा हो, यूएस में बैठा हो, जहां पर जो चीज रेशमा, आई जस्ट चेंज टू इंग्लिश वंस आई एम डन विद दिस, इफ यू अलाउ मी, थैंक यू। सो होता क्या है कि जब आप उस डेटा को शेयर कर रहे हो, वो लिमिटलेस है, आप उसको एक जुरिडिक्शन में रोक नहीं सकते। तो ये आपके क्वेश्चन का जवाब है। एनीवे, कमिंग टू क्वेश्चंस रेज्ड बाय प्रखर एंड रेशमा, सी एआई lacks jurisdiction. AI lacks personal intent. Generative AI itself means that it's a user generated thing. Anything is generative AI as long as there's a artificial mechanism involved. There's no physical or mechanical labor to it. That's why there was a need for issuing white paper advisory. Imagine ChatGPT has 3 billion user data, 3 billion permutations and combinations. Now, the OpenAI, the developers of ChatGPT, say that we did not force or construe or resort to violence to get that data. Users willingly shared those data. Imagine you walking into a bank and saying that, okay, I just put in my thumbprint and I got all the facilities, saved me time. What's the cost that you're paying for that? Your data is available with the bank. It knows your Aadhaar number, it knows your PAN card, it knows who your relatives are. How do you protect that? You cannot say that, okay, I know so and so, I can get back to you. Who do you get back? The bank shuts off its offices, it shares its data with third party. Can you stop that sharing of data? You, within the legal parameters and framework, you cannot. Why? You have consented to it. You have given them the license to share that data. Can you have a uh, proprietary access to that data? Yes, but even then you have to share that data with the bank because you have actually allowed them the license in the first place to utilize your personal data. They know everything about you. How do you decide that the humans are good or bad? Again, my question that I keep coming back to is, where is the threshold line? As someone said that DPDP Act is there. My question to you is, it's a protection of personal data. What is that? Is what the intention of the preamble of the DPDP Act is. What do you do if you don't know who to prosecute? The cause of action is not arising a particular person, it's arising against a particular AI. AI doesn't have a physical shape or a form, it doesn't have an address. The servers are down, the data is shared. How do you proceed further? Think about it. Think about it and let me know, what do you think? Do you think it makes sense? Uh, of course, there is. The actors Rias, Mensria, and the Commission of Offences there. Imagine cyber frauds. There's always that thing. But then again, when cyber frauds happen, is always that clear to clear discerning of what the cause of action is. You paid money to a bank, the payment was made in person, therefore, you can actually claim jurisdiction that I went to a branch, I was there, I can effectively prove that certain signatures were given to me as a conditional promise, that certain services would be given to me. Why? Because I was there as a person. I was there physically. The bank assured me, gave it in writing. AI cannot be construed to a particular person or a jurisdiction unless you can actually kind of uh, show primary and secondary factors where um, complied with. Imagine you walking into a agency and saying that, okay, I was doing this business. There's a certain model, AI model, and I was connected to an intermediary. Now my question to you is, intermediaries are those agencies which connect you within services and provide you service. Okay, see, understand something. We have AI models. We don't have a AI legal models. There's no statutory compliance to that. It's always open to interpretation within that institutional authority. I'll give you a very good example. In a recent judgment of a trademark infringement, someone quoted ChatGPT to kind of prove that a certain brand has a goodwill. The High Court said, how can, and why should we rely on an AI when itself is not a person? How does this decision affect it? Because today it exists, tomorrow it may not. The AI can exist, therefore it can be prosecuted or can be made liable because it's as a citizen or as a personal interest. It has a personal interest to protect its self-interest. As a AI, I do not have a interest in protecting my own self sanity or self value. How do you proceed against a self person, which itself is self negatory? But then again, my answer to you is that aren't you giving it a license voluntarily or consensually to share the data? And you did utilize the data. How can you, do a U-turn and say that, I utilized the data. I was, given a service based on me sharing a data. Now the machine shared my data without my consent. I want to hold it liable. The machine may very well, as a person, say that, okay, utilize my saver services. Now please get back to me and pay me a certain sum of money. So it's an equal trade-off. As someone said that if you look at, okay, since the most of the questions are coming on the regulatory framework, I'll simplify it. Let's break it down as to the legal framework. There are certain aspects of it so that we can prevent the misuse of it. When you take any service, there's always that contractual consent of mutual services to be offered. Even when you use a Snapchat or any AI, any platform, even your phone is a form of an AI. You are putting in your number. You're basically sharing your data. The phone call that you're making over a WhatsApp, you're basically sharing your data. Therefore, the need, uh, that WhatsApp keeps advertising that your data is encrypted. Why was there a need to encrypt the data in the first place? Because there were instances of the phone numbers being misused. People kind of cloning the phones, doing some misuse, and getting away with it. Now, coming to the jurisdiction part of it, I'm sure most of you know that how piracy happens, right? How the data switching happens, how the data platforms keep switching, right? As a lawyer, I was taught this within the cyber law classes that data switching can happen purely because I'm sitting and switching my uh, server to another country. In one country, I'm liable; in another country, I'm not. Purely because the regulatory frameworks are either that strict or they are not, or they are very laxed. Question is, where do you make that call? My proposition to you is that humans do, and that's the reason why there was a need for issuance of the papers. Again, if you don't share the data, there's no need for regulation. It all boils down to you as a person, what you share, how you share, whether the regulatory framework that you exist as a person or as a citizen allows you to share a data, allows you that liberty within that regulatory framework to protect that data. Now, you have to be kind of. Am I audible now, Muthu? Uh, I think someone will have. Yeah. So you as a person would have to be kind of meticulous enough, more so as a law students or as a budding lawyers, to ensure that the data you share is protected within the parameters of regulatory framework. Imagine you walking into a store and there are 10 different variants of you, and all of them are providing the same service. You can fight with anyone. How do you fight with a version of yourself? Do you say that I am a better version? Do you say that, okay, uh, I created this version, I am the master model? As your lawyer students, we, create different versions. Imagine there are different versions being created of you, online and offline. That's the need for regulatory guidelines. Imagine, I'll just read out. I'm reading from a paper issued by Meti on June 15th. If you'll just permit me, the applicability says that this advisory is applicable on all the intermediaries and platforms using AI model, large language models. Now, for those who don't know, this is what ChatGPT is based on. AI softwares and algorithms. Again, algorithms is something which even OnePlus and other phones use. While the definition of platform remains vague, it has not yet been defined under IT rules. Guidelines and rules are different things. Rules have a statutory compliance. Guidelines are based on person based. Either they can be utilized or they cannot be utilized. Even Zomato is a kind of an intermediary. Flipkart is an intermediary. Amazon is an intermediary. You are voluntarily sharing your data. Furthermore, it goes on to show and reads intermediary has been defined as under section 21W of IT Act 2000 as a person who receives, again, person. It's not saying AI, person. who receives, stores, and transmits any electronic data and provides any service relating to such record on the behalf of other person. Intermediary includes network service provider, WhatsApp calls, telecom service providers, Chat GPT, Amazon, Amazon Play, Amazon Pay, Amazon Prime, Flipkart Pay, Flipkart Wallet, internet service provider, Google. You have something called a lot of your local internet agencies. Probably they know more about you than you do about yourself. Search engines, web hosting service providers, online auction sites, online payment sites, online marketplaces, and cyber cafes. Who would have thought that cyber cafes can be a global data mine? Now, here at this point, I'll ask, wait for a minute, give me your feedback. What do you think is lacking in this applicability definition? See, uh, unless you guys respond, give me your comments. How would I know that you people are, understanding? जिनको हिंदी में सुनना है, आप लोग रिस्पॉन्ड करो. नहीं कंफ्यूजन होता है, बताओ आप. The session is that you guys need to understand. AI बहुत abstract concept है. जब तक आप लोग रिस्पॉन्ड नहीं करोगे, मुझे मुझे क्या पता, आप लोग जाके शायद सो गए होगे. चाय कॉफी मंगवानी है, आप लोग चाय कॉफी मंगवाओ. मेक इट इंटरेक्टिव, आप लोग बात करो. डिस्कशन है, ये क्लास नहीं चल रही है. आप लोग को भी समझना चाहिए कि जो मैं कर रहा हूँ वो इंटरेक्टिव सेशन होना चाहिए. कुछ मैं आपसे सीखता हूँ, कुछ आप मुझसे सीखो. करेक्ट. सेशन से आप भी कुछ सीखो, मैं भी कुछ सीखूं. आप लोग अभी पढ़ रहे हो, मैं पढ़ के निकल चुका हूँ, मैं प्रैक्टिस कर चुका हूँ. डिस्कशन होना चाहिए, आप लोग का अपना टेक होगा. तो आप लोग के हिसाब से जो इंडिया में मॉडल है, एआई कहाँ लैक करता है आप लोग के हिसाब से? एज अ लॉ स्टूडेंट आप लोगों ने भी चैट जीपीटी यूज करी होगी, आप लोगों ने भी जो समझ रहे हैं. आ, पारस, आई थिंक अनम्यूट का ऑप्शन नहीं है.
Just a second, sir. I'm opening.
आई थिंक कुछ लोग कमेंट्स में लिख रहे हैं कि अनम्यूट का ऑप्शन नहीं आ रहा है.
I have given access to if anybody wants to speak, he can speak now. He or she.
द माइक इज ओपन नाउ, सो प्लीज फायर अवे. हिंदी में जिनको बोलना है, आप क्वेश्चन पूछो. माइक्स अनम्यूट कर दिए गए. हेलो. हेलो. So whoever wants to speak or is speaking, your voice is not coming through. So please unmute yourself and ask questions, or perhaps raise your hand so that at least we know that the voice is not coming through. So all of you are clear on the concept of how AI differs from a person within that legal framework, or how it differs from the DPDP Act, हमारे जो मॉडल है IT rules. पारस, आई थिंक नो, किसी का कोई अनम्यूट कोई बोल तो नहीं रहा. सर कंटिन्यू.
No, no,
Okay,
sir,
sir.
you are audible, sir.
Yeah, so in case anybody has any questions, you can ask me. Do you have any questions with respect to the advisory, how AI differs, उसके legal framework क्या होते हैं? Or else if you're not getting through, आप chat box में डालो. See,
Sir, I
this
have a
has,
question, sir.
yeah, please go ahead. Yeah, so Mudassir, I think you were the one who posted the question in the chat box. Would that be correct?
Do you think like that? Sir, do you think like that, sir? AI is important for litigation? In litigation.
See, understand something. AI is important for litigation. As I was saying, there has been a recent instance, or the first instance, where AI was kind of looked down upon by the Supreme Court. in the sense that it lacks the human input. As I was saying earlier, there are agencies which have kind of in a limited capacity utilized AI to kind of give a report. I'll give you another example. In the initial days of Ram Janmabhoomi case, the data that was given, the archaeological data or the data with respect to the planetary composition was done utilizing AI as to get the geographical location of the where that place was and where the Ram Janmabhoomi is correct, considering there is a geographical changes happening in the gravity of the earth. So that was one of the first judicial utilization of AI to arrive at a legal legislative understanding of how the law works and its utilization in the judicial legal process. Coming to your question, I'll give you another best example with respect to AI or brand valuation is that there was a certain very famous fashion brand which makes sandals. Now, one of the leading lawyers relied on that to say that a brand has a certain value. And the court said that we cannot rely on it as a primary source of legal inference to come to a judicial decision because AI may be faulty because it's not a person. Therefore, we cannot hold it under oath to give a legible and valid answer. You can proceed and legally prosecute a person. How do you legally proceed a non person or a non judicial entity? Because AI doesn't have a physical form. You cannot bind it within the legally prescribed definition of a judicial authority or an institution. Therefore, the question of it replacing a judicial authority is that law works on the common law principles of that I am a part of a society. I'm just a higher understanding of law. Therefore, I'm a better based person. Again, person. I have a vested interest in maintaining the sanctity of a society. Therefore, I've been there because because it's in my personal interest to ensure a just background or a just social society. Therefore, I'm a judge, and therefore I can judicate on contentious or complex issues of law and social well-being. The very principles of common law principle that the king can do no wrong. I am a king, and therefore, as a king, I am also a citizen of the society. But there's also that principle that ignorantia law excuse non-excuse that ignorance of law is not a good excuse. Law nowhere says that just because you exist in a utopian society, you can do anything and everything. So it's a question of checks and balances. Uh, yes, does that answer your question?
Yes, sir, I got it, sir. Thank you.
Now, coming to, as I think I had seen earlier, someone had said that, utilization of AI by the government agencies. Now, as I said earlier, government agencies do utilize AI. The best example would be that, in the Ram Janmabhoomi case, government did rely upon AI, geographical utilization to kind of gauge and assess as to what the geographical semantics of it were. In that sense that, Earth's topography has changed, how would we can know for sure that no human being can actually gauge and assess that what the topography of that way? So how can we arrive at a just ground to say that this amount of land was there at the temple? This is the relief claimed. Therefore, as a takeoff or as a set off thing, equal amount of land with the equal amount of topography with the trees and everything should be given off. Therefore, the agencies have utilized. Archaeological Survey of India keeps utilizing AI. They keep giving their affidavits, including the fact that they have, to some extent, used AI to arrive at a just conclusion to say that this was there, this is what we have found now. Therefore, there's a disparity of this much, and the court should be sensitive enough to take that disparity into their account while giving the judicial decisions. Coming to think the recent question, I'll give you the very practical example. The fact that the cyber cell of Delhi is at Barakhamba. Now, people who live in Delhi would know where Barakhamba is. They keep using AI to kind of geographically track your phone calls. I'm sure there's a viral video going around where kidnappers of Rajasthan were caught while triangulating their phone calls. The technology is always there. The only difference is that judicial authorities have a judicial carte blanche or sanctions to use it as and when they please. Again, question is, it all boils down to the administrators and moderators. As a police, You can triangulate anything. It can even triangulate your phone. Imagine using your phone and tracking it. Even iPhones have the technology. The only difference is that as a lawyers, we are very well aware how to surveil people, as they said. There was a need. There's even a white paper on the digital surveillance by the government authorities. There's even a sanction, the Delhi Special Police Forces Act, which actually led to the creation of CBI, actually has a section on this technological surveillance and legal sanction. So yes, the need for AI was always felt even back then. And yes, the government can grant them authority to spy on basically each and everyone, as long as there's a just and judicial cause for it. Because I have worked with them in some limited capacity. They have the technology. It's just that the infrastructure is lacking in some regards. It would take you just mere 5 minutes to actually triangulate anything within India as long as they have any digitally enabled device. Like you have something called Navik. I'm not sure whether how many of you know of it or not. It's a very unique global positioning system used only by Indian forces. Exactly, but Navy GPS is again you have that INOC, because if you go to any international countries or countries which share similar water disputes, they use those technologies. Just Google this thing called NAVIC. That's Navik. That's India's own GPS global positioning system. They have integrated it within the uh, tri forces services. They you do use it to track forces and their soldiers and the movement of soldiers, because AI can actually kind of manipulate the data, which we called AI hallucination. Even it has its own hallucinations. Imagine if you search overlapping key string query. Imagine saying that how is a wolf different from a husky? For a machine, it has a very clear predefined AI modules which it uses to kind of give you a particular search string query. Imagine for it, wolf is something which eats meat and walks on ice, and husky is a dog which has a dog feature and walks on land. What if there is a husky which is walking on ice, has a thick fur, and is walking on a beach? You'll get some very interesting results, including a human walking on 4 feet on a beach. The only limitation to this was that because there was ice in the background and it was wearing a costume of a dog, it confused a human baby for a husky and a wolf. So there are certain things which is called AI hallucinations. So it's up to you as a moderator or as a person to kind of define certain standards with respect to where do you draw a line or how do you protect your personal data as a person, as a someone who's moderating data, or as someone who is handling the data of multiple people in a pluralistic sense. Imagine you are maintaining your accounts. How do you, when you are using your AI, how do you get to decide what's the sanctity of a data, even if one zero or one kind of gets misplaced or kind of gets changed? You would get a completely separate result. Therefore, I'll again come back to the initial thing. We cannot rely on AI as a popular thing because it can't be prosecuted against. It doesn't have a judicial identity because it's not a person. You cannot prosecute or enforce your positive right against a negative right of an AI. That is where the distinction or the differentiation happens. See, as I said earlier, I would be sharing the advisory and the papers. So be rest assured, I'll be sharing everything. But then again, as I would say, the white papers are the best things to rely on data. The data that I would be sharing would be the best would be the one shared by ministry, that is ensuring AI model compliances, advisory for the Meti guidelines. Other would be AI and emerging technologies group. So this actually covers everything, and they have their offices, with respect to augmented reality, computer vision. You have these days you have something called esports, uh, design development of national AI portal. To as I was saying, inculcation of data, research reports, data sets, case studies, educational institutions, courses. The problem is that AI is so ever inclusive and ever invasive. You can't actually put in within a set guidelines or platforms or AI. The only thing that's the reason that if you look at it from a very negative purview, there's only at best what Miti has done is, it has constituted an interministerial committee with recommendation, because you can't kind of put a thing that this is an all inclusive list. It has to be a very, uh, very invasive and inclusive list. Everything and anything can be utilized as a data by AI to give a result. Therefore, you can't actually have a very defined guidelines. Therefore, there is no defined set rules because the data and the utilization of the data would change. Either you can protect the data as an end user or you can protect the data as an entry user. The onus lies on you as a user to protect as to what you're putting it against. Don't share anything you don't want to be shared. That's the guidelines given by Mr. Elon Musk. I only share what I want the world to see. Because even if I don't share it, somehow the AI would include it because I have my own name on it. Yes.
Marathon.
Yes, please go ahead. You can share your question, I think. Yeah, so yeah, any last questions since I think we are nearing the end of the session? Would that be correct, Paras? Hello. Hello.
Yes, sir, you're audible.
Yes, so see, we still have good 5 minutes. Any questions? Like, I would like to understand your take as to how do you believe that AI is, operative in the sense that, it's very invasive. Like, as the prevalent thing that I could gauge and with the questions was that, it's very invasive. Like, I ask you as a law student that you guys are very active on social media. Don't you guys think that, there should be a app based model or framework to regulate the data rather than relying on a government, to ensure as a negative thing that I as a government am all reaching body and there should be a kind of a regulatory framework. What if why like can there be an initiative from you as a student, or how do you believe that, with respect to uh research, like everyone does research these days, everyone goes on Google. Don't you think that there's a need on Google to ensure stricter guidelines or prevent misuse of personal data, thereby negating the need for government to actually regulate the data in the first place? Exactly. Now,
Yes, sir.
so decentralization can is not a very kind of a unilateral thing. It has to come from the users itself. Correct. See, and as I said, like don't share something you don't want to be distributed. Correct. It's not like this is a very new thing. When you put something in the machine gives you the result after disseminating and perusing that data. Correct. So unless you don't share the data, you won't get the result. So don't you think like within the legal framework or purely in a Puritan sense, it's like a social contract. आप डेटा दे रहे हो, आपको रिजल्ट आ रहा है, आप डेटा शेयर नहीं करोगे, आपको नहीं आएगा. So there's no need for that regulation in the first place. Therefore, the government has not just given the guidelines and not rules. I'll give you another example. Okay, I think आप लोगों को शायद clarity नहीं आ रही है. Uh, like of all the people that are here, how sure are you that the data that you have shared or you have not shared cannot be misused against you? Your very being here has led to data being misused. See, okay, imagine, like as someone said, deepfakes. I'm coming to that. That is what I was trying to address. Deepfakes is not very visual. It can also be uh, audio based. Correct. See, Pegasus is just one example of it. Uh, Tanvi, please go ahead. You can either type out your questions or kind of speak it out. I think everyone
Hello.
has been unmuted, so you can actually ask a question. Yeah, please go ahead. Sorry.
Hi, sir. My
Hi.
question is regarding when we enter a website and we accept cookies. So
Okay.
what would so how does that because when we're accepting cookies, we're giving them permission to use and access our information.
Right.
Um, so how does that work, sir? And is that why is there like legal implications for this?
See, the question is two-pronged. I'll address them one by one. Number one is understanding as to how internet as a model works. All right. Now, there's something called SAS technology. So that has a very technical and a very industrial application, which has led to creation of multiple search engines in integrating them with a user-based search query or user-based profile. Imagine you when you enter a Google, it already knows what your interests are, correct? Therefore, it gives you a user-based experience or a user-based inference interface, correct? Therefore, uh, what cookies does is it tries to gauge and assess your mood, if I may say, or what you're looking into, or what your prevalent issues going through your head are. Imagine uh, someone searching that, okay, I wish to get successful in life. What are the prevalent collaborative talks that I can get my hands on? What is the free access that I can get to? Or perhaps I have a deadline assignment in 2 days. Which is the best place and a free website that I can, kind of peruse the data or get the data. So the machine knows that this person is a student. Why? Because it is looking at a particular searching pattern from which it can gauge and assess that this person is a student, say, of a particular college, because 10 different people have already done the same search in a particular similar platform 10 days back or probably 20 days back. Therefore, it is collecting and collating the data together through the use of cookies. Let's say you might be using your college IP. The IP is all same. The cookies are all the same. Therefore, it's collecting that data through those cookies. That is why I'm saying that you're sharing your personal data voluntarily. Anything and everything that you're entering onto your IP, you're basically giving it away. Please misuse it. It can be direct, it can be indirect. Therefore, again, to reiterate, don't share what you don't want the world to know.
Thank you so much, sir.
See, is the concept of cookies clear to you? In a simplified sense, cookies is just a language platform tool to collect and collate your data. What may be a personal data to you, for a machine, is just a personal research data, which within the legal platform or the legal query can be that without that data, we could not give the user a very personalized interface and the best of the experience. Therefore, we needed to peruse that personal data to give him that kind of experience, or a Google experience, as they call it. Correct. There is a lot of similar platforms. Again, as I said, all platforms work on a similar thing. Google just became successful. Therefore, everyone, gives example of Google. There are multiple platforms like, search engines always have a platform based upon cookies. Cookies are merely a front for collecting your personal data. IPs, your server is collecting data. As I was saying, that, as someone had earlier asked, why can't it be a judge? It cannot be a judge because it's not a person. Therefore, it does not have a vested interest. As a law student, the first thing we learn is that a king is the law, king can do no wrong. Where do you get to decide who gets to be, what is the eligibility criteria for being a king? One of the criteria in earlier times was that a king has to be a person, he has to be a royal family. The word imperative word here is that he has a family. The least amount of expectation of him is that he'll be reasonable. He'll see reason. Why? Because he's a person. AI is not a person. AI doesn't care whether you're well-being. It can even do self-damage purely because it deems it, efficient and best. It doesn't have that innate fears of, that, okay, I'm living in a society, there may be retribution or consequences. Therefore, AI can never be a judge because it's super efficient. A judge is expected to go wrong. That's why you have appellate authorities. It's not supposed to be all in all. Where do you appeal against an AI? If I'm coming clear, So it's a very jurisprudential and a very kind of a legislative concept. Yes, Tanmeet, go ahead.
Sorry, sir. I had one more question
Yeah.
regarding AI and how it will affect like the roles of lawyers and the judiciary in the future. So, how will it like change like the way the criminal justice system actually works right now?
See, understand something. As I said, we all like in US, you have something called a toss, where you can proceed as a public class action suits or other things. Correct? In India, we don't have a class action suit unless, of course, you're going for a corporate compliance or a corporate class action suit, wherein a large public interest is involved. Now, even the National Judiciary Bill has not yet incorporated the concept of AI because it does not see deem fit AI as someone who does have the necessary and reasonable qualifications to adjudicate a matter properly, because there's always that human element involved. Now, if you're not a human, you cannot be seen, felt in a tangible way or in a physical form. You're not fit enough to be a judge. Because as a lawyer, there's certain categorization. I'll break it down in a very simpler sense or within the legal regulatory framework. There is a Indian Citizenship Act, NRCA. So that was NRCA was used as a basis of Citizenship Act. Citizenship Act says that you must be a citizen of India. How do you gauge and decide who is a citizen of India? You need to have a house. You do certain humane functions. You perform certain social functions. You pay taxes. You have an identity. Imagine AI having an identity, but no fear of retribution. इट कैन से मैं ये कर सकता हूँ, मैं वो कर सकता हूँ, मेरा तो घर ही नहीं है, मैं आज इस सर्वर पे हूँ, मैं कल उस सर्वर पे चला जाऊंगा, I'll be a globe trotter. Globe trotter in the sense कि my server may today be in India, tomorrow my server will be in Russia or in some place in far flung out North Pole. How do you get to that? We as humans have our own physical limitations. AI has no physical limitations or that fear of retribution. Therefore, you cannot kind of limit or impose certain conditions on it. Therefore, I don't think, and I'm very sure that there are research papers on this, and this was even discussed at a, you know, uh, I'll give you a best example. In case for those who read comics, there is a very famous, very old 80s comics book called The Watchmen. One of the superheroes there was a AI. Therefore, now what happened in that particular storyline was that it killed everyone except itself because it felt that it was the perfect being, therefore it could do no wrong, and therefore it was the only fit being for survival. Therefore, with that said negative attitude, the very question of judging someone, you know, suffers a very, self-defeating purpose. That since I'm a perfect being, I get to decide. But my approach to life is that everybody deserves to die because I'm a perfect being and others are not. And others are not perfect. Therefore, there's a need for judging. So it's a very vicious circle, and therefore, I don't think that AI would be a very good fit for playing the role of a judge. Does that answer your question to some extent, Tanmeet?
Yes, sir. Thank you.
Thank you. Yeah. So, are there any more questions, or should I continue? Because, see, as I said, there's a lot to discuss. In case you're interested, we can go ahead. Except, of course, we all have a time limit. Else, I'll just finish the session off here, or we can continue. Um, Sakshi, Paras, do we have enough time?
Yes, sir, we have 10 to 15 minutes more.
Okay. So, either Paras, Vicky has shared that the feedback link is not working. Perhaps you can share it again.
Yeah, we will share it again. Just a second, Vicky. Sir, you can continue the webinar session.
Yeah. So coming back to thing, now my question to you is that I was saying that imagine AI as a responsible being. Is it a myth? Is it a reality? Now imagine, uh, as someone is saying, I'll share this. This is a research paper, Anjali. This is Principles for Responsible AI by Niti Aayog. So whatever, like I'm relying on this because it's a government-based thing. Therefore, you can actually quote it and cite it. I will be sharing the link for it. Therefore, you guys can actually kind of quote it and paraphrase it and use it. It covers everything. The benefit of this is that it delivers something on a very practical aspect with respect to a lot of basic issues like say security, privacy, protection. Because again, even the government doesn't believe that it has the right tools and the technology to kind of impose or limit the misuse of AI in a limited capacity. It can only do so in limited capacity because the AI that we use, there's even a distinction of web as dark web and a normal web. What we use is just a normal web. Even the government cannot control the dark web. Therefore, it can't impose conditions upon it because there's always that, security awareness, blockchain technology, jurisdictional issues, and a lot of other things. The best it can do is it can prevent AI on its end usage, be it with respect to commercial usage, wherein you have certain aspects like intermediaries, wherein you can prosecute them against them in consumer forum, saying that you are misusing my data. Therefore, you have to compensate me with damages because the data was shared only for a commercial angle with certain inherent guidelines as imposed by government of India because the data was shared only for a limited purpose by you as a user, which was for buying something. Because it was used for something else, you can drag Amazon to the court that it was not given, you know, license as a owner, but license as a legal concept for only a limited capacity, which was for buying a certain thing. As soon as the transaction or that thing was bought and over, you paid for it, the usage of that data is over. It cannot misuse the data, it cannot transfer the data, it cannot assign the data. Why? Because it was contractually shared within contractually permitted guidelines. Had you shared your data personally, like say Facebook, there is no contractual obligation involved. There is no end user guidelines given to it. You share something on Google. Google has not asked you for any transaction. There is no end usage. Google can use that data and Google will use that data because you shared it willingly and voluntarily. That is where the role of we as lawyers come into play. We have to find certain ways to protect that data. Therefore, we try to find that under what guidelines the data was shared. Say something personal was shared. What was the conditions or the paramounting conditions surrounding the sharing of data? Whether the IP guidelines are permitted, so as to kind of draft out or carve out a particular cause of action so as to bring it within a regulatory framework. What was the overlying background? Are there any primary and secondary conditions through which we can limit the misuse or the dissemination of the data shared? So that is again the onus lies on the role of the timeline or the background surrounding the data, on what conditions the data was shared, and whether it fits within a particular cause of action defined within regulatory and applicable statutory framework in India. Like DPDP Act has been shared, but again, as I said, there are certain guidelines which has to be fulfilled in conjunction with the IT rules and otherwise, and even any other applicable laws. And say uh, European countries have a very strict guidelines with respect to personal data, but then they also have certain loopholes to it as to how you can get away with it. Sweden does not have a very clearly defined IP rules. You can share anything and everything, and the legal authority would say, first show us a cause of action. Why should we proceed? You pay for us. We will proceed. Just so as to kind of overcome that loophole that okay, our regulatory framework doesn't cover certain things. Good enough. There may be a cause of action which our law authorities were blind or ignorant of. Good enough. Pay us. We will form a task force. Based on that money, we will try to look into it. And in case we feel that there is a particular cause of action which demands the authority of our judicial authorities, we will look into it, but you will have to pay for it. We just don't have the enough time or the infrastructure, and we just don't feel the need to. So that is considered one of the best models across the world. That I as a person feel I have the resources to look into it. I'll provide you the necessary assistance, financial or otherwise. Form a task force, look into it. You being formed by the government would be considered an appropriate authority, and that research or the investigation you have done would form the need to necessitate further cause of action and therefore legally recognizable. The advisory paper that we get uh, issued by Meti or perhaps even NASDAQ or even any regulatory agency is you know indirectly recognizes the need that it is very insufficient, because internet is everywhere these days. It has kind of invaded into everything in our personal life, everything that we do, literally and physically as well as figuratively. Law or lawmakers cannot gauge and assess what the societal norms are, or what is subjective people's understanding of where the privacy lines are, what the threshold points are. It's the onus lies upon we as slightly aware individuals to draw or carve out that line. Therefore, again, don't share what you don't want the world to know. If you have shared it online, it's out in the world for no. Like I as a person can find everything about everyone, or at least form a very reasonable opinion because I might have shared it as an ignorant person some time back. If it is on internet, it will always be there someplace or on some server, either connected or defunct servers. Any questions, people? See, I said earlier, this is supposed to be an interactive session. I know it's a very boring topic, but rest assured, once you start reading and understanding, uh, when
It was
yeah,
a very informative section, sir. Very informative session, sir. Thank you so much, sir.
yeah. So, any more questions? Because see, we can go into the commercial use, we can go into the Amazon model. So now, I want you to kind of make me understand that what is it that you wish for me to speak about. There are multiple applications because there's no fixed framework. So, you as a legal student, what do you think is the relevant part, or what do you think is the end role of AI? Like someone suggested, judge. Don't you think that's a very limited way of looking at AI as a model? Of course, we already have that, harnessing AI. But then again, we can have something. I think Paras can probably coordinate or range on that, and we can have something, harnessing AI, or its end use utilization, especially or specifically for the legal world, like Chat GPT. But then again, you have certain so many uh, models wherein UK law firms, like say even Westlaw, actually has a paid premium model wherein AI actually guides you in using AI and get a better optimized result. So it's already applicable in India, and law firms are using it, of course, albeit in a very limited capacity because it has no legal recognition. Therefore, they cannot rely upon it or use it in their arguments or evidence. Uh, Yamnal, actually, see, every country, again, that would kind of lead to, overlapping of jurisdictional issues, because, again, that would be a question of where do you draw a threshold line as to, common law versus European law. European law is a culmination where of various laws, including Scandinavian laws, Norwegian laws, and English laws, wherein you have this common law system with applicability of torts. That is wherein the major distinction happens. That I am a part of public. AI kind of affected me. Therefore, I can prosecute anything and everything within the permits of law because it also affects the public at large. India, you don't have that class action suits or torts. Therefore, it is very clearly and rigidly defined. Either it fits within the given definition of law, or it does not. Uh, See, I'll give you a good example. I don't know whether it has been reported or not. One of the local newspapers reported that AI was used to kind of cause marital disputes between a couple, wherein the wife utilized fabricated video to get a divorce and alimony, and even otherwise. So that's just one aspect of it. Ultimately, it all boils down to what the end usage is. There have been cases, as someone said, that Reshma, I can't see your link, but then again, harnessing of AI technology would not be, as I would said, it's not very limited. It's very inclusive. So can't, exclude it or make it very exclusive to say a particular subject line or a particular query. Ultimately, as I said, People see generative AI is very limited to what I put in. That is where the threshold point is. Anything and everything that a user can think, AI will incorporate and inculcate that and kind of learn by it. It's like a human baby. It learns and evolves. Ima- Therefore, you're saying that, uh, as I said, you are basically creating virtual clones of yourself, or at least part of what you're thinking, giving a shape or a virtual form to the ideas that might have been circulating through your head. Okay, Prakhar, to answer your question, don't share what you want, don't want the world to know, or be very meticulous in how you are framing your queries. That would give you a certain leeway that you're preventing the misuse of data. Imagine you are given a work, you can ensure that it's a commissioned work. Reason being that since it's actually contractually protected, you can, and it is, it has a certain proprietary aspect to it. So you can pursue, you can persecute someone who may make the AI the party that that data already belongs to me. I'm legally liable to share you because that data is a proprietary information that only I can use in India. So how are you utilizing it in India? Courtesy through dynamic access to your website. Take it down, if not within everywhere, at least in India, because I have an exclusive right to protect the use or the misuse of data within the jurisdiction of India. So always ensure that the data that you're sharing is contractually protected. You can even protect your personal data by paying even a person 1 rupee, saying that I'm delivering this data to you in exchange for something. It's a commission, I'm giving it to you. There is a legal angle to it, there's a commercial angle to it. It's a onus on the lawyers as to how to, kind of gauge and assess the probable cause of action, how to kind of bring it within a set regulatory framework, how to ensure a certain compliance, add or enshrine a certain uh, compliance clause to it, how to enshrine a certain arbitration clause to it. One of the core reasons for arbitration being popular in India is that, you know, that you wish to prevent misuse of confidential data. Confidential data cannot always be related to industrial data. It can also relate to data of individuals or the data of the individuals who are working on it, and not just industrial data, the personal data. Machine is learning and calculating everything. You're not even sure that what data it is collecting on you while you're working at it. So as long as it is connected to internet, it's collecting your data. I like one of the key roles that I had was, DPDP Act was that okay, my employees are working on a set computer. What all would you suggest is the data that it is keeping? Like one of the key things that we as lawyers found it funny was that it was even calculating how many times a person checked in for having their lunches, or how many times that a certain food coupon was used at the counter. The machine was even calculating that to the nearest 5 minutes clause. Every 5 minutes, it was updating its data. We actually had that data access to that limited thing, and therefore we could gauge that uh, what a person was doing, what person was not working and wasting his time. So you can actually kind of gauge and assess the end usage of it. So the only way you can use data or kind of control or regulate is either through at entry point or through at exit points. Yeah, any more questions?
If anybody have any other query, please may write in the chat box. Otherwise, we will wind up the session.
Uh, Paras, I think Ananya said thank you. So I guess we can close up the session if everyone is okay with that.
So we
And
will.
I,
Yeah, yeah.
I, and I think I'll be sharing the links. Paras, probably you can share it on the group or the registration website or whatever is the preferred means. Will that be okay?
Yeah. So
I'll
we
be
will
sharing it
share in the
within
WhatsApp group.
10-15 minutes.
I think, sir, nobody have any other query. So thank you so much, sir, for such a wonderful session. I hope everyone will get know about the AI use of AI and the misuse of AI. And then now I would like to call our visionary founder, Miss Advocate Sakshi Sharma, on the virtual stage. Please, ma'am.
Thank you so much, Paris. Good evening, Aman sir. And
Maybe,
thank you
ma'am.
so much for such an informative session. It really was a great session, and we all have learned something really new and interesting today. So, thank you so much, Aman sir, and we really look forward to having you with us more. Thank you, sir.
Very kind of you, ma'am. And thank you, everyone. Let's hope I have not bored you on a Sunday evening. Irrespective, I'll be sharing the links. I can also suggest that you can check. There is a agency. Reshma, you can go ahead. I think you have raised your hand. Um, I think I can take one last question. Yeah, please go ahead. I think someone raised their hand. I think I can always take one last question. Please go ahead. Reshma, you can. I think you can unmute yourself and ask the question, or else you can type it out, whichever is a convenient mean. Reshma, you can ask your question, or else type it out. Sakshi,
Reshma, if you want to ask any question, please ask. Otherwise, we will wind up the session. I think she has by mistake raised her answer. So thank you so much for a wonderful session. Uh,
uh,
Thank you
so
so
I
much.
think you can, if in case you wish to reach to me on LinkedIn, I think Sakshi can actually help you with that. Sakshi, I think can share my. I'll be sharing my LinkedIn. I think can share that. Else, I think Sakshi already knows where to connect with me, so that shouldn't be an issue.
Yes, sir, we'll do that.
But thank you, people, and thank you so much for bearing with me, especially on a Sunday. And feel free to connect with me and Legal Vidya, because see, this is just one-off session. I'm sure, like once you go through it, you'll have more questions. So I would suggest stay connected, have discussions. Legal Vidya can actually help you with that. However, having said that, have discussions among yourself, and you can connect either with Sakshi or perhaps Pakar. And as always, I'll always be there. So in either amongst these three, any would do. So best of luck with that.
Thank you, sir.
So I think we can close the session. Sakshi, if that's okay with you, Sakshi and Prakar.
Yes, sir.
And rest assured, I'll be sharing the link within 10 minutes. Hopefully, Sakshi or Prakar